The kitchen in the South Willard Correctional Facility was one of the quieter areas of the prison. It was maintained by a few of the prisoners in exchange for reduced sentences and higher quality food. The prison staff did not give it much attention unless the supplies got low or if something needed fixing. Otherwise it ticked along like clockwork. On a Tuesday morning, the rear sink started draining more slowly than normal. Marty, the inmate doing dishes for the week, reported it to the guards who told him to continue using it. It was probably grease. By Wednesday the water refused to drain at all. The sink plugged and remained plugged. By Thursday though the smell was different. Marty said it was like something rotting in the pipes. He complained to Officer Benner, who grunted and phoned maintenance. Maintenance did not arrive until Friday morning. It was a single guy, Diaz, with a bucket and some tools. Marty moved out of the way as Diaz loosened the U-joint beneath the sink. Even with gloves and a flashlight, he gagged when the pipe released its load. First it was black water. Then it was food clumps. Then it was something else. Diaz halted, set down his flashlight and peered into the bucket. "What the hell?" he said in surprise. Marty leaned and looked. There was a finger in the bucket. Clean, swollen, pale and cut off cleanly at the base. It had a small tattoo on the side, a rough star. No decay, no blood. Just flesh. Like it was cut off yesterday. Benner was summoned. Then the warden. Then medical. The medics identified it as human. Fresh for sure. Clean cut. Surgical. A head count was called for at once. All prisoners lined up. All staff were accounted for. No one was missing a finger. No one even had a bandage on his hand. The jail closed down the kitchen for the day. They taped off the sink area. Diaz was instructed to leave the bucket where it was. He did. Then he signed some papers and went home early. The bucket was gone the next morning. So was the finger. Benner suspected Marty. Marty answered with a definite no. They searched his cell. Nothing. The kitchen cameras showed nothing overnight. No one entered. No one touched the bucket. The warden commanded a second search. Diaz returned with a partner this time. They tore out the sink completely. Pipes, joints, elbows. They searched all the way to the back of the wall. They found nothing. No clue where it was from. No clue how it ended up there. Just a finger that wasn't supposed to be there and now wasn't. The prisoners discussed it for a bit. There were speculations. Someone had smuggled it in. Someone wanted to be transferred. Someone had cursed the sink. Marty continued to work in the kitchen. He did the dishes by hand in a second sink. He couldn't stop looking over at the empty sink. He said that sometimes it made sounds. Gurgles. Clicks. Like something moving around inside. One evening during storm lockdown, Marty had heard it again. Louder this time. A metal clang followed by a scrape afterwards, he reported. He could not sleep that night. A week later, Officer Benner walked through the kitchen and caught a scent. Not food. Not cleansers. Something else. He looked in. All was well. But the sink, now completely reassembled, had water in the bottom. As though someone had recently used it. But no one had. He leaned in and listened. A sound. A soft knock. He stepped back and called maintenance once more. They came. Nothing. The sink was dry by then. No sound. No sign of trouble. Then another finger appeared. This one was in the strainer. Somebody found it while doing morning prep. Another left ring finger. No tattoo. Fresh. Another head count. Another search. Everybody whole. Everybody fine. The warden called in outside investigators. State forensics. They removed the finger. Said it was recently cut. In the last 24 hours. Said there were no indications it had been preserved. DNA was processed. It did not match anyone in the database. Not a single known person. They ripped the sink apart again. Even broke into the foundation underneath. Nothing. They put cameras facing directly over the sink. 3 days later the sink clogged again. Slowly at first. And then completely. A third finger. Middle finger. Left hand. Female. Again no match. Again, no one missing anything. The sink was unusable. Blocked off. Covered over. Pipes disconnected. 2 weeks went by. Nothing occurred. Then the smell returned. Even though the pipes have vanished. Even with the whole thing sealed. The odor came back. More intense. And the tapping noise. Not loud. But persistent. Guards said it was nothing. Yet Marty could have sworn that he'd seen something in the basin one night. Not a finger. Not anything human. He said it was white and damp. Like a fish, he said. But longer. With joints. Like it bent in the middle. He would not do kitchen duty afterwards. The warden assigned him to laundry. No one went near the sink again. But people continued to hear it. Continued to smell it. The room was locked at last. Made into storage. No one was allowed in. But guards said the smell sometimes seeped under the door. Sometimes they'd hear water running. Sometimes they'd receive a knock. Then the other sink in the infirmary clogged. Then another finger. No match. No explanation. No one missing anything. The prison contracted with a private plumbing firm. They examined the whole water system. Kitchen to sewer. Every line. Every joint. Nothing. One of the plumbers quit after the work. Said something looked back at him from the pipe. He said he did not know if it had eyes. But it seemed like it saw him. They attempted to replace the sinks. Attempted to reroute the system. Still happened. Once a month, a tow. Forever young. Always human. Never belonging to someone. They started sending them out to labs in other states. No matches yet. No explanation available. The warden retired early. Benner moved out. Marty was released after 2 years. He never again used a kitchen sink. He stated that sometimes when he turned the water on at home, he could smell it again. He moved. But it did follow him once. One night there was a knock. Coming from beneath the kitchen counter. He left the faucet running all night. Just to drown it out. It didn't work. And in the morning the drain was blocked. And the smell was again there. They moved me to cell 13 in D block after that fight in the yard. Said it was standard procedure, but everyone knew D block was where they sent the guys who were a little broken. The ones who mumbled to themselves or yelled at night. I didn't mind. All I wanted was a bed and some peace and quiet. The door slammed shut behind me. Inside there were 2 beds, one on top, one below. A man was already sitting on the lower bunk, facing the wall. His back was straight, hands resting on his knees. I nodded and said, "Hey." He didn't turn or even blink. Just kept staring at the plain cement wall. I figured he wasn't much of a talker. That suited me just fine. I climbed up to the top bunk, lay down, and tried to shake the feeling that something was just off. He didn't move for hours. That night I slept lightly. Every now and then I'd wake up and glance over the edge of the bed. He was still there, sitting quietly, same position, same silence. The next morning the food cart came by. The guard slid my tray through the slot. I asked for a second one. "What for?" he asked. "For my bunkmate." He looked at the clipboard. "There's no bunkmate," he said. "This is an isolation cell." I told him I saw someone in here. That he was there all night. The guard looked at me like I was slow. "You're alone in there," he said, shoving one tray through and walking away. I sat on my bunk, staring down at the man below. He hadn't touched the tray I left beside him. Still hadn't moved. The next 3 days were the same. He sat facing the wall, didn't eat, didn't sleep, and didn't blink. I started feeling the air around him, heavy like water, almost like a vacuum. On the 4th day I pressed the call button. I told the guards I thought my bunkmate might be dead or sick. They told me I was in an empty cell, no bunkmate, no second bed. But I swear he was real. I described him. Medium build, short hair, pale skin, wearing a standard orange jumpsuit without any ID tag. He sat on the lower bunk and didn't say a word. They didn't say much. Just looked at each other. Later that day a nurse came in. She checked my vitals, asked if I'd been sleeping and eating, and inquired about any drug use. I told her the truth. That night they didn't lock me in cell 13. Instead they moved me to the observation room, 4 plain white walls and a camera watching everything. I stayed there for a couple of days. When they brought me back to cell 13 I noticed the lower bunk was gone. It had been completely taken out, just a mattress on the upper bunk now with nothing underneath. There was no tray slot for a second person, no pillow, no sheets. Not even a hint that anyone had ever slept there. I sat down on the floor and stared at the spot where he used to sit. The wall was spotless, the concrete smooth. I pressed my palm to it. It was icy cold. That night I heard breathing, not mine. It came from the floor, deep and shallow breaths, like someone was crouched nearby, right next to the bunk. I couldn't sleep. The next morning a tray was slid through the slot. I took one bite and left the rest untouched. No one said a word about the man. No guard asked if I was still seeing things. It was like the whole thing had just been erased. A week went by and I stopped telling anyone about the bunkmate. But every night he still came back, sitting on the floor where the bunk had been, same position, hands on his knees, facing the wall. He never turned around. I asked him once who he was or what he wanted, but he didn't reply. One night I just couldn't take it anymore. I climbed down and stood right in front of him. I waved my hand in front of his face but he didn't react. I leaned closer and reached out, touching his shoulder. He was warm, Not cold like a ghost or hallucination, not imaginary at all. He was flesh and blood. And he was breathing. I looked at his wrist, no ID band, no scars, no tattoos. His jumpsuit didn't have a name tag either. I checked around him on the floor, no footprints, no food tray, no water. Still he was alive. I started carving days into the wall, one scratch for each night he appeared. I made it to 16 before something changed. One night I heard movement, not just him sitting there but actual movement. Dragging, shifting positions. I opened my eyes and he was gone. Instead I saw a faint outline on the wall, a square like a hidden panel or a sealed door where a door once was. The next morning I went up to the guard and asked him about the wall. He just told me to shut up. Later that week they brought me out to see the boss. The warden was sitting behind a steel desk, flanked by 2 guards. He asked me about the guy. Not mocking, not dismissive, just serious. I told him everything I knew. He didn't bother taking notes, just nodded and slid a file over to me. I opened it up. Inside was a grainy black and white photo of the cell from years ago. The same room but with a hole in the wall, maybe a crawl space about 2 feet wide. The report said they found it in 1993, behind the wall, tunneled from the old sewer line. Nobody knew when or how it was made. The space led to a sealed chamber under the east yard. Inside they found a man, dead. He had ID from a prison 3 states away, but that prison never reported him escaping, and his name didn't match any records. They buried the body, case closed. But nobody ever figured out how he got in or how long he'd been there. The warden closed the file and said they sealed up the wall after that, turning the cell into a solitary spot. No bunks, no roommates, just one guy at a time. I asked why they put me in there and he said it was a clerical mistake. Then he said something strange. He told me I wasn't the first person to see the man. Others had seen him too, different years, same cell. And everyone described the same thing. A man facing the wall, never moving, never speaking. They called him the bunkmate. But here's the part one don't usually tell people. That night when they brought me back to cell 13, he wasn't sitting by the wall anymore. He was sitting on the upper bunk, my bunk. I didn't scream. I didn't call the guards. I just sat on the floor staring up at him. He kept looking at the wall even from up there, still unmoving, still silent. I pressed myself into the corner of the room and stayed there until morning. When the light peeked through the slit in the door, I looked up. He was gone. But the sheets still felt warm. There was an indentation on the mattress, a smear on the pillow, like someone had been there, like a real person. I never saw him again after that. But I hear things, breathing in the vents, fingertips tapping under the mattress. And sometimes when I sleep on my side I feel the bunk shift behind me, as if someone else is lying there watching the wall, just waiting for me to turn around. They brought me to cell 3B on a Tuesday. Informed the pipes in my old cell were leaking again. Same guard who habitually referred to me as Chief as if it were a joke. New cell was the same as the old one, concrete, bars, slit window high up. But the bed had a new mattress. Appeared newer at least. Had the plastic strip still at the corner. The first night I saw the damp. I initially assumed that maybe I sweated in the sheets. But not so. The middle of the mattress was wet. Not wet, just damp. And chilly. I pushed my hand into it. It didn't have a smell of sweat. It smelled sour. Like spoiled meat with an odd chemical after odor. I informed the CO on morning rounds. He didn't even glance. Just shrugged and said perhaps the laundry dried it wrong. Told me to flip it and stop whining. So I flipped it. The other side was worse. Dark stains throughout the middle. Like water damage, only it was random. Not much form to it, just darkness spreading out. And it still reeked. Maybe worse. The same way a butcher's shop smells when it's too hot outside. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I lay down I felt the cold spot. It clung to me. Like whatever was in there had seeped through my clothes. I was looking for bugs or mold everywhere, but nothing. Just the smell and the wetness. By day 3 I developed a rash. Small red bumps on my midsection. Guard said I probably had detergent allergies. I asked for a new mattress. He laughed. You think we got extras lying around for whiners? Be grateful you got foam and not springs. But I did not give up. Wrote letters of request. Filed complaint. Had nurse come, gave me a cream, said it was probably contact dermatitis. Asked her to inspect mattress. Said that's not her field. That night, ripped off the sheets and cut into the corner seam with plastic spork. Just enough to peek inside. It was not foam. There was something stringy in it. Yellowed. Looked like cloth. I pulled at it with the spork and a piece of it came away. It wasn't clean. Looked like shirt stuff, old, brown stained, crossed with threads of something darker. Hair. Long black. Matted. I did not sleep that night. The next day I went to the guard. I picked up the clump and told him that this mattress wasn't dirty, it was filled with garbage. He said throw it away or he'd write me up for messing with it. Told me I must have put it there to make waves. I asked him to review the inventory log, to see who had ordered the mattress. He told me he'd check. He came back later that day. He was not the same. He was more subdued. He informed me that there was no documentation on that mattress being dispensed. Logistics had no record for it. From a supply standpoint, 3B was still waiting for a replacement. There it was nonetheless. I requested whether I could be relocated cells. He said no empty beds. So I hacked deeper. I waited until lights out that evening and began working. Tore the seam apart with a broken comb. Scooped out handfuls of the inside. Everything looked alike. Rags. Dirty wash. Shreds of denim and flannel, all dirty. Some of it was burned looking. Scalded at the edges. Then I found something hard. A button. Then a tooth. Only one. Yellowed. Rooted in place. As if it had pushed its way up. I dropped it. Took a step back. Sat in my cell corner until morning. I stopped reporting it. No one cared. But I kept digging. Every night. As if I couldn't stop. By the end of the week, the half of the mattress was hollowed out. I had a pile of cloth, hair, pieces of who knows what hidden under my bunk. Then I found the thing that had halted me. A piece of face. Not a face. A bit of skin curled up and dehydrated. With part of an eyebrow remaining attached. I needed to puke. It smelled of bleach and decay. I went to the bars that morning and simply stood there until the CO arrived. I did not scream. Did not struggle. Simply held it out in my hand. He didn't say anything. Just glanced at it and called it in. They secured the cell. Removed the mattress in a body bag. I was transferred to medical for observation. 2 days later, some suit appeared to take some sort of questions. He explained the mattress was not on any list. No delivery record. The material inside wasn't prison-made. The DNA on everything came back as multiple individuals, none of which matched any inmate or staff member. I asked where it came from. He did not answer. I asked what happened to it. He explained they were handling it. I have not gone back to 3B. They walled it in. No one talks about it. But still, I find myself thinking about that bed. Sometimes at night I still get damp at the bottom of my back. Like something is leaking through. And I don't even know if they took it out.